Hello, everybody. I'm Richard from Expertise Recruitment. I head up the Manchester office. With me is
Joe, and I'm from Expertise Recruitment. I specialise in infrastructure and cloud recruitment, and I'm also the founder of Manchester Infrastructure Group.
Great. And with us today, I'm really happy that Kevin Paige can join us from M247. He's the CTO and held many senior leadership positions as well in the past. Hi, Kevin.
Hiya, good to meet you all.
I guess the first question I think a lot of people will be asking is, who are M247? What do you do? So I don't know if you could kind of give us a breakdown of what the business is and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, sure. So M247, really, I guess I describe it as a global technology service integrator now, focused on probably much more around cloud technology as we progress in the future. So our kind of, the real value that I saw and the excitement of me joining M247 was really around the people and capability that the business had at the time I was asked to kind of join. And I think, laying down a real clear product and technology strategy was a real key first task for me to make sure that we galvanized all the technical skills and capability that we had in the organization. We're at that stage where we're an integration of 3 businesses that have been acquired through a private equity-backed organisation. So for me, really the organisation had a lot of capability, but lacked some of the technical and product direction that really would make us successful in the market. So first task was to really kind of to do that, and I guess that's really led to a product portfolio. And it's actually, we operate extensively across an infrastructure set, really, internationally as well as in the UK. So that's led to a product capability that really spans cloud, connectivity, security, and UC really these days. That's our core competency set. This example of the size of our organisation is that I think at the moment, I wrote some data down here. I think currently we are across 26 countries at the moment, 30 international cities, and we're operating out of 67 data centres, and have connectivity presence in the UK around 22 BT exchanges. So we've got a really good heresy in connectivity, and that's where the company has come from in the past around acquisitions, but also now more emerging with acquisitions that we made back in probably 4 or 5 years ago now around data center and cloud capability. So our real focus now is on enabling our customers to take advantage of cloud technology, but underpinned by a cloud-ready, secure network. That's our kind of real philosophy. So that's where our goals are at the moment, to enable our customers to make that transformation.
Brilliant. Okay, so I guess the way that you sit into the business then, I mean, CTO probably means a different thing for a lot of different people, I guess, depending on the size of the business and what they're trying to achieve. I mean, what does your role entail as CTO at M247, and what's your kind of roadmap for that business?
So I guess that's a really good question. I've had so many debates on what a CIO is, what a CTO is, what a CDO is. I think, as usual in this industry, which I kind of love and hate sometimes, we've kind of always found confusing language to try and, describe what certain roles and key roles are. I guess, and I've kind of almost been, running, the CTO brand, I guess, for the last, 15 years probably. So for me, I think that the CTO role in this current climate, I think is almost born out of, probably for me, when there's a business that has the ability to sell revenue generating products, and they are, kind of almost like a whole infrastructure requirement and application requirement to deliver that, as well as then the internal IT systems that would need to be to deliver corporate IT. I think, you'll see businesses where predominantly it's an IT-based role, and they're there to enable the business from an IT perspective, and that's the CIO role in my language. I mean, also when you've got businesses that need both the infrastructure to deliver key services, like we deliver cloud and build our own cloud infrastructure. We do our same with our own networking. All that's owned and operated by M247 capability. I think the CTO role is the blend of the products and services infrastructure and applications, but also has responsibility for all the corporate IT. And then the third role, probably most important role, is it's an advisor to that business. And more and more in these days, it's a leadership role on the board of businesses that provides that technology voice and insight to what's going on. And it actually acts as the change agent to drive technology, digital transformation or disruption from that role itself. So the role's kind of changed quite a bit in the last 10, 15 years, but that's where I would kind of summarize the role to be now.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it really does mean different roles for different people in different businesses, and we see it day to day, speaking to different CTOs, CIOs, and they always seem to incorporate different elements of the job. So it's really good to get an understanding of where you're at.
I think the business side and the understanding the way the business operates has become more important in the role, both from how the business operates internally, but the sales functions, how those products are propositioned to customers, it's become much more of the leadership role for the CTO as well. Brilliant.
So, I mean, how this is kind of going off topic a little bit. How do you see Manchester as a hub in the UK?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I kind of almost would closely align Manchester now to Dublin a little bit. So, to Ireland, and Ireland has almost created a tech zone in Ireland where it's got a close community of capability, well supported by the government there to enable and enhance that. And it's encouraged a lot of, tech companies to come to Ireland. So, Google are there, Amazon are there, Apple are there. I think what I'm seeing in Manchester is almost that similar city being one of the key factors of drawing engineering excellence and, where it's content in media type, companies. So in the past, I guess we've now seen, Talk obviously recalibrate themselves back into Manchester. A lot of the media companies are around Manchester as well. So I see that sort of side developing, across the Leeds boundary as well into the northwest a bit more. I think that's that hub is starting to kind of create itself here around, tech, media, and I'm sure it will grow even more, especially with the capability, the infrastructure the city has. What's quite interesting about, Dublin have run out of, real estate to house technical, capability really. So Google, I think, actually just decided to build their own, and Facebook did the same. They've started to invest in property to make sure the environment is there to encourage the right skill sets. And I think, technical people want to live in an environment which stimulates them. And I think, you lose a bit of that in London because it's quite big. But here, with the city that's in Manchester, I think there's that chance to create that real closeness around having all of the, the sociability, etc., around what's required to encourage people to go and work in Manchester and live in Manchester, alongside the tech firms that are growing here as well. Obviously, cybersecurity with the move from GCHQ as well. There's a lot of stuff that's now, emerging back to the northwest. Yeah.
What kind of culture then do you think you've created at M247, and what would you say to people outside the business about what you're doing there that maybe is a little bit different or makes you stand out?
Yeah, I guess where I've come from, in the last kind of 5 years, I think it's been probably more important that, the technology vision is brought into by the business, and probably I've probably instilled much more ownership back into the business to make that successful. I think, a lot of in the past, I've seen organizations which I've been part of that almost the technology group thought they could drive the business around what it should do and how it should operate. Now, unfortunately, you find that there's a lot of challenge in that environment. So you're always pushing against a hard brick wall to kind of, if you're in that kind of scenario, and it doesn't work in the long term, because unless, the business is understanding that it owns its processes, it owns its capability to deliver the functional areas it needs to deliver, and then, the technology group is there to provide that advisory, that support, develop the solutions and systems that make that more effective and improve the way the business operates. And I think that's the model we're trying to cultural wise. So we're very much about, we've been clear on what we think the technology group should own and what the business should own. We don't own data. Data's not, we house and manage and support it, secure it, but the data of the business is the business's responsibility. Yeah. The processes of the business and how they want to function, those processes, are their responsibility, but we provide, BA assistance in helping them to work through those. And I think, over time, we're gradually edging towards that being, a cultural model that will help everybody to be more effective and deliver better. And I think that back to that accountability, responsibility, across the boundaries are really important as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I think this kind of goes back to before we did our introductions, and we were having a little chat about recent pandemic, COVID-19 as well, and I think you were talking about a survey that you're doing internally in the teams about ways that you could probably enhance that culture further based on what your employees want. And maybe you can just talk a little bit about how M247 have coped with COVID-19 and maybe some of the things that you're putting into place as a business.
Yeah, I guess, what's been interesting for us is, we were saying earlier, I think every situation that happens in these kind of environments, you learn from, right? So that's the most important thing. You have to adapt and learn is the most important thing for me. So we were, pretty much 95% of our business was running remotely within 4 days of the lockdown process, really. So we had, obviously had capability to do a lot of that before, but people, were very much in the offices. But I think we've done quite a lot of technological change that helped us on cyber security, distributed working, identification management, all that kind of good stuff. We've done a project, in the last 12 months to really enable us to be much more flexible on how we would allow people to operate. So yeah, within 4 days, everyone, including our support groups, call center access, etc., all working from home, pretty much seamlessly. To be fair, we've got a few challenges in IT systems. Finding some laptops that are right spec, make sure people got good connectivity at home. That was all pretty much done. People taking monitors they need to get to the home, but very much a self-service kind of model to get ourselves off of the outside of the office space. Our data centers obviously is a different situation. We need people there to operate those for our customers. People are still accessing the data centers, so different model there. Same for our warehousing team as well. They would be operating as normal. So that was really our it worked really well that way. And what we're seeing, I guess, now we're, how many weeks in? Is it now 12 or?
It feels like 6 months.
So everyone's talking about the new normal. God knows what the new normal is going to be. But I think, for us, it's kind of like adaptation around, what to continue to evolve our business was important for us. What we felt we couldn't do was leave 12 weeks of just being locked down and not achieve anything. So actually, I would say, believe it or not, I think we've achieved so much in the last 12 weeks. We were running a big, kind of change program for our IT systems. We're adopting ServiceNow as our main service engine for our infrastructure. We've managed to migrate one support group across to that before lockdown, and we had two still to go. So our first challenge was, well, how do you now run a project where you had project teams around a table collaboratively learning about how the system's going to integrate, and finding the kind of testing side and everything else? Something that's like, okay, we can't do that anymore. Well, how do we now roll out, to another, 40 agents and engineers the system? And the answer, you can't do it. The answer is, well, how do you do it? So we actually managed to do remote training, remote teachings. We've managed to migrate them, and everyone's working fine. And we've got the support groups there, obviously Teams groups running on collaborative, questions and answers. So when you kind of face with those challenges, you find ways of improving them. And I guess we continue. We're just in the process of launching a new portal for our customers. So I think the real proud for me is that we continue to innovate and develop and release products and services, even in a time when it's kind of unprecedented around what's actually happened. Really,
Yeah, I think it's probably forced a lot of businesses' hands maybe earlier than they would have wanted to on some of their journeys, or maybe broken some of those preconceptions about the way that people can work. It's kind of forced businesses to go, oh, hang on, actually, people are still actually doing their work and they're performing quite well. And I can only see it being a power for good in the long run. But I think there will be, I think when we do go back to some level of normality, if you like, that there's going to be that resistance for some businesses, though, the ones that say, actually, no, we want everyone back in the office. Is that going to cause problems? Or, we're probably going to have a period of time where there is going to be a to and fro in trying to find out the best way to work moving forward.
I think for us, I think you have to be flexible. Every person has got a different scenario around how comfortable they feel at the moment. Are they comfortable being at home? What's their family environment? Are they cohabitating with older parents, higher risk? So I think we'll be very flexible on ensuring that our kind of staff direct us on the best way they want to work going forward. But there's a bunch of learnings we're taking away from what's happened in the last 12 weeks. And you're right, the same for our customers. I mean, it's quite interesting. It seems, my example of that, our project delivery, there's almost been lots of examples out there where people would have taken, weeks and months to test, develop, release. Suddenly, because, they need that functionality and capability, they had to do it there and then. It's like, hold on, so it took us 3 months to do that before. We've now done it in 4 weeks. Why can't we do that always? So so I think it's going to change the way people think about, kind of delivery of infrastructure and IT applications, for sure,
Yeah, no, I agree. So looking at the market in general then, and how you assess different, competitors, and, how do you go about analysing that? And how do you, as a business, try and keep ahead of the competition? Because it's a highly competitive market.
It is. So I guess, our focus really for M247 is mid-market, on the kind of the low end of enterprise, probably, but different, perhaps we find ourselves in different spaces, but mid-market enterprise really focuses, is where our products and services are geared towards. And I guess, it's been interesting for me, when we set the strategy about, 2 years ago, it was really around that key product set being the real direction we wanted to go into. So I think, we've looked at, if I take cloud as an example, there's lots of cloud opportunity out there. One of the USPs that we felt we had was that because we owned, infrastructure like network, and we also owned, we own quite an extensive international, kind of connectivity network, which is connected to all of the highest level of, internet peering capability, transit, and also all the interconnects to all the SaaS products and services as well. So one of the things that we think we could add real value in is that, especially in the market we serve, I think our customers, vary between, you all know, mid-market, they've got a couple of IT people, some organizations, some people might just have one person, some people might have a bit more capability, but really it's like they're fighting always for resources, skills, and to try and, work out how they deliver everything they need to deliver. So our goal was really looking at, okay, can we take away the infrastructure, responsibility for them and be almost a one-stop shop, one back to pack, I think is what we say now, rather than the one, kind of like one throat to choke. But certainly, can we take away that, cloud layer down to infrastructure, voice, etc., and just make that just work, just work for customers. So that's where our goal has been. I think we've seen, competitors do different things with the different assets they have. There's still very much people that are focused on cloud, people are focused on voice, people are focused on networking. I think having and security, everything we have together is well bundled now to provide that holistic end-to-end secure capability. So for example, a customer connecting to our network, we can guarantee them, whatever their connection on their office means, if that's going to a cloud service that we run for them, we can completely guarantee that end-to-end, including the location it's actually built in. If they want to go to, much Azure, we have all the Cloud Connect, capability to make sure that when we deliver that service, it's delivered right to that kind of, that public hyperscaler cloud, and we'll guarantee the SLA in between it. Yeah, that's what we're about now, and resilience and capability to have that as a service for our customers. So I think, we look at, and we've also started, so our cloud products revolve around hybrid is our kind of view. We don't think anyone can be you can't picture yourself into a cloud architecture and just do one. Everyone's got a different need, and workloads and IT infrastructure needs different requirements. So we're very much, hybrid across AWS, Azure. We've built our own cloud and private cloud infrastructure that we run as a shared model because we felt customers were getting bill shocked in the public cloud and they wanted control around that. We also, deliver dedicated cloud services for people as well. So, and then also what's emerging more for us is the data management side of this kind of product set as well, where, disaster recovery is becoming more relevant, especially in this environment that's just happened. Backing up data as well. So we have, really good disaster recovery products that almost customers can replicate their virtual machine environments into our cloud environment, and, whether it's been their infrastructure may be compromised by cyber attack, ransomware, almost shut that down and fire up their infrastructure with us in, within hours. So that's a real emerging capability that we're seeing needed. And just the backup of data, also that data, the data is now kind of key requirement as well. So we use Cohesity as our partner in that space and Zerto as our partner in the DR world. And I think both of those are really good, innovative suppliers that fit with our innovative technology philosophy that we probably have as an organisation. So I think we've got, I think we've got more to offer as an end-to-end rather than just the specifics of individual products and services. When it's combined with the power infrastructure we have and the capability we have globally, I think that's where our differentiation is at the moment.
Yeah, good answer.
Obviously, there's a lot of IT infrastructure professionals that will be listening to this. So it's kind of, obviously, there's everything that's happened. They're having to work from home. Some of them have been furloughed. What advice would you give to infrastructure professionals who are coming back after COVID-19 and stuff like that? What advice would you give them moving forward so that they can be successful within themselves, really?
Yeah, Joe, my first kind of thing is ways to say be as best as you possibly can at what you do, and be quite clear on what you want to do. I think the IT space has got a wide number of roles in there. And I think having that clear career plan around, what you want to do, and obviously revisiting that every 12 months to make sure you're still on the right path. But I think being clear on what you want to achieve is important. And whether that's, being great at doing what the new development world looks like around that. Obviously we've got this emergence of DevOps, which is a fantastic, exciting space where, the crossover between delivery and operations is kind of blurring. And that leads to much more innovation and rapid delivery of new capability and products and services, etc. That's quite an important part as well. I think, in furlough-wise, hold tight. You're in an industry that's going to continue to grow. You guys know that shortage rate is out there on skills. I mean, one of the things I didn't mention was that, I'm a chairman of what's called the ITP, the Institute of Telecoms Professionals. I've chaired that for the last couple of years. And that was, me giving back. As far as, I was an apprentice back in BT when I first started my career. And the ITP is a not-for-profit organisation really about managing IT professionals' careers and capability, helping them to be mentored, finding them, apprenticeship schemes, finding them, career advice and knowledge around the industry. That's one of our goals in that organisation. They do a fantastic job. So me giving time back to consider and help and support people in their careers and us back in the right investment kind of time to go and involve and help people in that IT professional world is really important. In the more specifics, I mean, someone that now can blend cloud, networking, security, and the DevOps capability is priceless for me at the moment. That skill set, the more people that have got that skill set, I would be more encouraged around that. I think cyber is absolutely, an area that's going to grow. Be a little bit of a concern in this outturn around, the investment that companies are able to have to work on their cyber programs for a short period of time. But I mean, this is the biggest space. I didn't mention that probably specifically in the futures, but the more and more I dive into cyber and what's going on in that space, that's incredibly important for the IT professionals to have a good understanding of not just in the specific specialist jobs, but how if you're designing or operating, the back of your mind, you must have that that security kind of overlay on there as well. And then I guess we talk about people that are good technical leaders that can inspire, innovate, and develop and mentor people in the space. I think if I'm an IT professional, find those people, identify who they are, and look for those. I've got a lot of experience and advice to provide. So people seeking out that advice, they get almost like a leg up on their knowledge base before having to learn some of the things that have been learned. Now, I'd always say about myself though, people need to have new thinking to take on top of what I've already learned. And I always look for people around me that have got new thinking to be able to collectively help me and them, evolve our own careers and our own understanding. So I think they're the things I kind of would focus on at the moment. Cloud obviously has been one of the most important innovations and evolutions that's going on at this stage.
Yeah, that's good follow on for my next question, really. Because a lot of companies, around the UK have been forced to move into cloud because they've had to work from home. How has M247 with their customers and what have you dealt with that usage, the increased bandwidth, the increased cloud usage of that migration, whilst we've all been in lockdown at the moment?
It's quite interesting how I'll explain the way we've seen on our traffic profiles. We've seen obviously quite a lot of bandwidth change profile in the office space bandwidth, for example. So, you know, voice and data just kind of, you know, change from, if the profile of the customer's gone, you know, working from home, then that data on the main link has changed, depending on what infrastructure they're housing in that premise, whether it has their back-end infrastructure in there, obviously, then there's still the same volume. That would have grown because it's now being accessed by remote access kind of systems as well. But then we've seen probably a much more distributed infrastructure around how people are now accessing from, you know, mainly from home broadband, right? So that's then brought, you know, probably for certain anchor points, it's brought intensity of bandwidth into those anchor points. If it's a security appliance, for example, for VPNs, then obviously that is now, we've seen traffic increase into the VPN aggregator, and then traffic balloon out of there, because obviously it's all being centralized and run through that, you know, rather than for some of the other centralized pipes ahead. So I think that will have an interesting dynamic around how you get speed and quality of service at the home broadband SOHO level against, you know, what a normal premise would have looked like in the past. So we see examples where I think, you know, people, they're lucky enough if they're in 5G coverage, they've actually, their broadband wasn't good enough to run, you know, their business, you know, video conferencing, etc. through the day, so they gave everyone 5G routers. And, you know, that was a big uplift because obviously 5G is still quite quiet at the moment. So yeah, so I think it's different when it's going to work, really.
Yeah, I think, well, just like you say, that the biggest trend probably has been before COVID was infrastructure on-prem migrating into cloud. And then we've seen a bit of a trend of the hybrid approach, which M247, I was doing a bit of reading, and just like you mentioned before in Richard's questions, your solutions, you do have everything. You can provide pretty much everything in terms of the infrastructure as a service, the cloud, and then even going into your own private cloud with 247 cloud, which is really interesting. It's really unique in that way. It really puts you in front of your competitors in that sense. From your perspective, where do you see the most opportunity within infrastructure? Do you see it more in the hybrid approach or the cloud security side? Where do you think there's going to be the big, because obviously infrastructure will be moving from prem. Will you see it moving back down, or do you know, what do you see the opportunity?
I think everywhere is probably the answer, but I think what we see customers kind of doing at the moment. So we've seen, you know, the first scenario we've seen is that customers have taken hyperscaler cloud, and back to that, you know, what depends on what skill set capabilities in your organization to understand, you know, what you've gone on board in the hyperscaler cloud, public cloud model, depends on how successful you are in running that infrastructure. So we would have seen people gone to AWS, and suddenly, you know, their bill was nothing, it was much higher than they expected it to be. And they can't manage that volatility on their infrastructure being up and down, you know, in drastic changes, really. So on the back of that, we've then had conversations with those customers, and actually, you know, the right model for those guys is they want to pay a monthly subscription fee. They know the capacity they've got. They get told when it's getting close to being, you know, exhausted, and we work with them on that. So we've built private clouds for those kind of customers, really, around that, dedicated for them, because they want that security, they want that control. And then what we've since seen is much more customers actually, you know, perhaps have made a primary choice on AWS, but actually they haven't got no backup or resilience. Yeah. So then we're saying, so they want something different from that. So this is where our private kind of shared cloud, M247 cloud, comes into really its own, because they can then put their workloads, you know, back into, as a redundancy model, back into that platform. And whether that's on a disaster recovery model, and we got, you know, customers suggesting they're going to have like 500 VMs that they'll protect on backup. You know, they can switch at any time to run, you know, off of you know, public cloud onto our shared cloud infrastructure, or you know, dedicated, depending on what they're looking for. So that's definitely an evolution that we're seeing. That use case is quite a lot out there. And as I said before, you know, we also see a lot of people that are worried about data. So where is their data? Is it on premise? Is it off site somewhere? Are they back it up on tape? Are they sending it, you know, on a truck somewhere? So that data protection space is also growing, interestingly, for us as well, around having that replication for that as well. And I guess, you know, the other thing about, you know, looking at the disaster recovery project at Zerto, we're almost replicating someone's full infrastructure, you know, within a few minutes, you know, back across to our infrastructure, and obviously there to fire up at any time. And customers now are also just looking, you know, depending, our biggest solution question always is, what are you trying to run? You know, what do you need in your infrastructure? What's the workload model look like? And it will then basically be the kind of, the advisor on where that workload should be best placed. And we will recommend AWS, recommend Azure, if they want that kind of space, and obviously, and help our customers on that journey around what the best workload model is. Also, we've got good, performance tools and cost management tools that help us work that infrastructure out as far as where it should be and the best cost-effective way of delivering it. So that's where I think a lot of our conversations are happening at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's it's really unique to have all those solutions to provide for your customers in that sense, because there's not really a one fit all, is there? When it comes down to
no, and I think the other thing about our own cloud, and we've developed our cloud with Nutanix. We like Nutanix. We think they've got they're in our technology philosophy. We always look for partners who've got a similar kind of ethos around innovation. We like Nutanix, and I think the next evolution that we haven't really seen, and I think is going to be the next change, is obviously we're talking about virtual machines. I think the container level is the next real interesting thing. I think K8 and that environment is going to blow massively as far as upgrading. Looking at that, we're seeing customers asking us for that for K8 at the moment, Kubernetes at the moment, and how that we can allow that onto our cloud. And I think the flexibility we've always enjoyed is that with our innovation, if we've got the tags backing that, we can provide perhaps some some leadership around how those environments might operate in the future as well, and provide customers what they're looking for around that and innovate with them.
Yeah, I agree with the container side too. I've been reading that up on Azure. It's really interesting comparing it to virtual machines in that sense. I definitely agree with that. It's definitely going to be the new era most likely.